In this video I want to show you how to knit the beaded rib stitch. This is a slight twist on the classic 1x1 rib, and it has these beautiful little beads of texture in every other part of your ribbing that gives an extra little bit of interest to your pattern. It's a 2-row repeat and it's not a reversible pattern, so if I flip my work over you can see that the back does not match the front, but it is not ugly. It does have a defined texture of its own. It just doesn't match the texture on the front of your work. This stitch would be great for adding texture to blankets or for using as an alternate form of ribbing because it does have quite a nice amount of stretch to it. So without further ado, grab your needles and let's get knitting. The pattern multiple for beaded rib stitch is 5 plus 2. So what you want to do is cast on a number that is a multiple of 5, so either 5, 10, 15 stitches and so on. And then once you've done that, you are going to add 2 additional stitches. I like to use the long tail cast on, but you can use whichever cast on method you prefer. It really doesn't matter. For today's tutorial, I'm just going to cast on a really tiny sample of 17 stitches, but you can cast on as many or as few as you like. This stitch is a really nice short 2-row repeat, and your odd numbered rows will form the right side of your work. So row 1 is a right side row. You want to start row 1 by purling the first 2 stitches. Now you're going to jump into a 5-stitch repeat that you are going to work all the way across until the end of your row, and that is as follows. You are going to knit 1, purl 1, knit 1 again, and then purl 2. Cover that once more, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1 again, and then purl 2. And that is your 5-stitch repeat that you will repeat across to the end of your row. Row 2 is a wrong side row, and you are going to start the row by knitting the first 2 stitches. And then just like with row 1, we have a 5-stitch repeat that we are going to work all the way to the end of the row, and that goes as follows. You are going to purl 3 stitches, and then you're going to knit 2 stitches. So just once more, that is purl 3, and knit 2. And you're going to repeat those all the way to the end of your row, and you should end on a knit 2. As this is such a short repeat, let's go over those 2 rows once more. So row 1 is a right side row, and that means you have the right side of your work facing you, and you want to start row 1 by purling the first 2 stitches. Then you're going to jump into a 5-stitch repeat that you repeat all the way to the end of the row, and you are going to knit 1, purl 1, knit 1 more, and then purl 2. And you repeat that all the way to the end of your row, and you should end on a purl 2. Row 2 starts with knitting the first 2 stitches. Then you're going to jump into your 5-stitch repeat that you are going to repeat until the end of your row. You are going to purl 3 stitches and then knit 2 stitches. So that's purl 3 and then knit 2 all the way to the end of your row, and if you've counted your stitches correctly you should end on a knit 2. And that's all there is to it. You will now repeat those 2 rows until your project is the size that you want it to be, and then you can cast off. Just a couple of final tips and tricks for you before I leave you to your knitting. When it comes to casting off this work, I would always recommend that you cast off knitwise on a wrong side row. That will give you a nice and matching top and bottom, and by casting off knitwise you are not going to end up with a slightly stretched out top edge like I have here. I actually cast off in pattern, and as you can see it hasn't quite worked. So when it comes to your project, I'd recommend casting knitwise on the wrong side of your work, as it will just give you a slightly tighter top edge that seems to benefit this pattern. If you're someone that likes to have written instructions to follow along to, then I do have a full set of written instructions on my blog, and I've linked that down in the description below. That's all from me for today, but before I go, I'll leave you with another little bit of inspiration that I think you might like to take a look at.